Universal Disclosure Podcast proudly welcomes back Mr. Stephen Bassett.
And because these individuals have lost the faith in the government, and there are millions of people like that. I guess we know that now pretty well. And so they have lost. It's all deep state. It's all a ruse. It's a manipulation. It's propaganda, no matter who says it. And the higher up the person is, the more likely it is, in fact, that. My job is to sort of interpret this for regular people who are interested in the issue. They're on it, and they want to know what to make out of this. All right? So some of them, they want to see an extraterrestrial interviewed there. They want that ET right there, interviewed. Former chairman of the Intelligence Committee, current Secretary of State, and so forth and so forth. I mean, it's an A-list like this of individuals speaking into a camera for a production that was going to be seen by a large public has never happened, not even close. There have been smaller versions, without question, but the assemblage is just intensely potent. Whether you're talking about the swamp or the deep state, I get it. It's convenient, and it basically gets a fundamental message across that there are influences behind the scenes. There are always going to be influences behind the scenes, and they don't have our interest at heart, and they're a problem. And we know how it works with medicine. Take 4 times the allowed dosage, and they find you on the bathroom floor. Well, right now, the United States government is kind of lying on the bathroom floor, either to be taken to an emergency room or put out of its misery. And so when it comes, don't be shocked when you see them literally pivot, right? And immediately invest huge sums of money into building what we'll call extremely efficient energy devices. Maybe the kind every home gets one. They outed, in a much more dramatic and public way, the religious resistance to this issue within the Pentagon, which is good, right? Because, if they want to be that way, we need to know that. Is that as it's circa 2025, and what we're going to be finding, and it's already kind of coming out, that telepathy is real. Remote viewing is real. Very likely telekinesis at some level is real. They've been studying it, they know it, but the reason they won't say anything about it is what's maybe most important.
The following program is presented for general information, education and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to be advice of any kind. The content, views, thoughts and opinions expressed in this program are those of the individuals involved. The use of information on this program is at the user's own discretion.
Stuart, man, we're in the void. What's going on here?
I know something weird's happened. I guess it's related to disclosure somehow. We're left floating in the nothingness, wondering who the hell we are.
Yeah, I participated in something not too long ago, a couple days ago, and it really messed up our studio here. And I hopefully we'll figure it out. We're also in between seasons, as it were, right? So, but we need to talk about Age of Disclosure. Did you see that?
No, it's just come out and I was busy. I had a gig last night, so I haven't gotten to see it yet, but I'm very interested. Now, how's this one different to some of the previous documentaries that have come out?
Well, I don't want to give away too much. And today we're going to be talking with Stephen Bassett, the UFO lobbyist from Washington, D.C. We're going to get his reaction to it. And then maybe at the end, I'll give you my reaction as well. And we can kind of go from there.
All right. I'm intrigued, Mike. Let's do this.
All right, and it looks like he's just joining us too. So Universal Disclosure Podcast proudly welcomes back Mr. Stephen Bassett. All right, Stephen, thanks for joining us. It's good to see you again.
Always. Lots happening. Love to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. So we're really mostly going to talk to you about Age of Disclosure. I got a chance to check it out briefly yesterday, and when we're done here, I'm actually going to go to a watch party. But I'm sure you saw it too. Right? What's your reaction? What do you think?
Okay, get ready, because this is not simple. Let's see. First of all, this is a breakthrough documentary. It is a milestone. It's going to change a lot of things. It's going to have a lot of effects. Not that any of the other documentaries didn't. They did. But on a matter of degree, this doc is something else. It's over 2 years in the making, maybe a little longer. And a good deal was put into it. I think substantial funding plus top of the line production, post-production. And of course, this is the work of Dan Farah, who is a Hollywood pro, and we've been waiting for a Hollywood pro to do this. God knows how many years went by before we got a couple of documentary streams from the Hollywood guys, which was, of course, J.J. Abrams' UFO and then Steven Spielberg's Encounters. These are like 4 episodes, documentary, and important. And that was a milestone too, but not the same as a big screen doc lasting 150 on real theater screens, not just rented in a sense, and sufficiently handled in whatever way you do in order to be eligible for a Oscar nomination, which could be a whole nother level of effect of this doc. So it, of course, is extremely important to me. Now, the more you know about this issue, the more important that doc becomes. I get that. People that start with nothing, they know almost nothing about it, but they got intrigued, they heard about it, they went and watched it, all the way up to the Mees and Dolans and Zabels and Coultharts and all that kind of stuff, who know a lot. And so you're going to get a range of interpretations of this doc. So let's break them down. First, the film critics, the professional film critics, they don't understand this issue. They don't invest in it. They don't spend time. They don't know about it. They're film critics. They're already controversial. They may knock a film and be hearing about that for years from people out there that now hate their guts. So they're kind of sensitive. And so they just are not going to invest in this issue, and they haven't. And so the film critics, the professionals, like the gentleman writing for the New York Times, but others, they're going to just completely miss it. And they're already attacking it as if this was the 1970s with the kind of tropes and things you hear back then. Where's the hard evidence? Just talking heads, yeah, on and on and on. And attack the movie that way, and give it a poor review. I mean, the movie is not a spectacular production in the sense of extraordinary cinematography and what have you, and incredible editing cuts. It's a basic documentary done well. And sometimes the most important thing about a doc is not how fancy it is, but rather how much impact it has. And that's going to play out because an Oscar nomination, if they get it, will not come because of the superior cinematography and or editing or whatever else. It's going to come because no other documentary, and there's several, I mean, there are a number of documentaries that are going to be nominated that are apparently outstanding work, and I'm totally impressed by that. But it'll get a nomination because of the impact it has, because I don't think any of the nominations we're going to see next year are going to have the same impact on society, the human race, the planet, whatever. So that could get it the nomination. A win, I have no idea. I just wanted to get a nomination. So that's your film critics. So when you read the professional film critics, expect that. Now you've got what we'll call amateur film critics that actually are on various platforms like Rotten Tomatoes and not pros, but they do give it reviews, and IMDb as well. That's going to be kind of in between. A lot of these do know something about the subject, and they'll be able to give it, I think, a righteous review and discuss it intelligently. But some wannabe professional film critics are going to pretend they're a professional film critic, and they're just going to, they're going to do it to it as if, hey, I'm writing for the Los Angeles Times or whatever. So, watch for that. But you'll get a better response. Now, another group that's going to be watching this film are the what we'll call lifetime debunkers, skeptics, who this is what they do. Their genre now is the internet, social media, particularly X, and they review everything related to this. They have a comment about everything, and their fundamental raison d'etre is to find holes in anything they can related to this issue and point them out. And if they can't find some holes, they'll make up some holes. They look at every angle. There's almost no positive approach to it. It's like, can I find something negative, and can I get that out there and build my subscriber base? So expect that from them. They're just not going to have anything, in my view, appropriate to say about this film, frankly. And in general, their reviews are going to be worth nothing. So you've got that group. And then you've got the average, just regular person who does not know much about this. And they are going to be in a position to learn a lot. They're going to see and hear a lot of things that they didn't know anything about. And we'll break them up into a couple of groups. Regular people now, just people out there that heard about this film, maybe never even seen a UAP doc ever, or maybe one. And so they go and watch it. Some of them are going to attack it because to them it's deep state stuff, it's government stuff. And because these individuals have lost the faith in the government, and there are millions of people like that. I guess we know that now pretty well. And so they have lost. It's all deep state. It's all a ruse. It's a manipulation. It's propaganda, no matter who says it. And the higher up the person is, the more likely it is, in fact, that, right? Because these are the people who have the power to manipulate us. And so they're going to dismiss it that way. They're just not going to believe it. I get that. I understand that. And then you're going to have individuals who don't have a strong bias, one way or the other politically. They're pretty much kind of neutral, but just intrigued. And these people are going to be significantly moved. They're going to get a little excited, and they're going to see, whoa, something really going on here. And then in the general public, you have people that are really on the issue. All right. They may not be professional activists, researchers, or what have you, but they're on this issue. They got that library in the basement, and they're going to be psyched. There's no question about it. They're going to be very, very psyched about this. So this gives you a sense of the and then the people that are really into this issue very deeply. Many such individuals, they do have certain takes on what's going on, and they're going to reflect that in their comments and or reviews. Meaning, well, this is interesting, and I'm impressed with some of these guests, but they got this wrong and they got that wrong, and and it's not jiving with their perspective, and they'll give intelligent reasons for that. And that, of course, is perfectly okay. It's part of the deal. And in general, you cannot just march forward in a major activist movement perfectly in line. Everybody's on the same page. That doesn't happen. It's one of the reasons it takes so long. So it's okay, and take in what they have to say, and put it in your bin and consider it with everything else. So that's the first thing in terms of how the people are going to respond to it. Now, let's talk about the impact of this. This doc is going to be incredibly important because it's going to impact a whole range of things in a very significant way. Most people who are not really aware, I don't know too much about what's going on politically and elsewhere, they're not going to see that. And I get it. That's my job. My job for the next, I've got 18, 19 interviews already booked. I may book 40 by the end of the year. My job is to sort of interpret this for regular people who are interested in the issue. They're on it, and they want to know what to make out of this. All right. So some of them, they want to see an extraterrestrial interviewed there. They want that ET right there, interviewed. Okay. They want the interviewer to acknowledge that he's not saying anything. The ET is giving the information in his brain, or they want to see some ET tech literally in a warehouse, and they're investigating. They want the goods, and that is not going to happen. And the reason is not that they don't have the goods, is that this movie is part of a much larger process, which we call the disclosure process. There's actually two disclosure processes. One is just small d disclosure, the revealing, the getting information out. That's really a process. Call it a revealing process. It's been going on for 80 years. It'll continue to go on. But there's another process, and that's built around my term that I came up with over 20 years ago, which is capital D disclosure, proper noun, and that is getting the confirmation from the president. There is a capital D disclosure process to get that. The other is about getting stuff out, but the capital D disclosure process where I reside is getting a confirmation from the president. All right. And so this film is part of that capital D process. The hearings are part of the capital D process. Witness statements and statements from members of Congress, as well as much more media coverage, is part of the capital D process. In other words, it's part of getting to the president disclosing, not getting to when you can have your own personal ET device or something, right? It's about getting that confirmation, which is the fundamental barrier between the entire world and the whole enchilada in short time, and also being developed to address our issues. In other words, the Capitol event confirmation is magnitudes more important right now than any particular information somebody wants to see in a documentary. All right. And so most people don't understand that. I think the people that are part of the capital D disclosure process do. There might be the odd exception. And so what do I mean? In other words, most of the people that are engaging this issue internally, they know it's real. They know the ET presence is real. They know we have tech. All right. And then they're working from that. That doesn't mean they're all just going to come out and yell it to the moon. It just means that they understand, because they know it's real, that the confirmation by the president is absolutely essential. And so they're helping that to happen. Now, when they do help it to happen, they're serving the capital D disclosure process. And not surprisingly, that process needs to be conducted legitimately. It needs to be legal. It needs to not violate any rules. And so if you're a witness and you just want to get the stuff to the public, and you used to start breaking one NDA after another and outing this and outing that person in this program, you may get information to the public, but you are creating a real problem with the disclosure managers and the DOD in general, and you're just going to get even more resistance back. In other words, you've got to do it properly. If you write a book, you're going to submit it to DOPSR. DOPSR's going to review it. Something has to be withheld, they'll withhold it. Everything else can go out, and you can learn a lot by what they allow out. So quite a few people understand this, but they can't tell you that. They can't say, look, I'm trying to help here. I want to get a hearing, all right? Because, there's extraterrestrials here, right? And so we need to get a hearing to confirm what I already know. They really can't do that. Now, they've been getting closer and closer to that and making statements which are clearly in that genre. And the reason they're doing it is the issue continues to advance and mature. But they can't come out and tell you why they're not demanding or standing out in front of the DOD saying, I want those craft vehicles. No. They're trying to get something done which is totally responsible and appropriate. We need to have confirmation from the president. Absolutely. Not from a chief of staff, not from a member of the military. None of that would count. It has to be the president of the United States, commander-in-chief of the entire military and intelligence, and the person with the power, technically, to out anything, declassify anything. All right? And so that's the process that's going on. And so that makes it hard for a lot of people. They're wondering, why do you not go further? Why don't you say this? Why don't you say that? And all I can say is that's coming. Be patient and appreciate what they are doing. Don't knock them, congratulate them. Now, with respect to this doc and the capital D disclosure process I'm referring to, leading to confirmation, in one part of the doc, they matter of fact state that during the administration of George Bush, some significant individuals met with him in the Oval Office and discussed the pros and cons of George H.W. Bush, disclosing the ET presence. And that's significant. Mm. First of all, there was I speculated back in the 90s that when Clinton had been approached and Clinton was debating what he was going to do, and they did make some efforts, but it didn't result in much. But I said many times that George H.W. Bush was the perfect president from the standpoint of the military intelligence complex to be the president that confirms. He's got all the credentials, the background, the jobs. They didn't name the CIA center with his name for nothing. And so it would have been guaranteed to be responsible and respect all the little things that have to be carefully considered. But he lost an election surprisingly at the end, because up until just late in the election, it was a lock. He was going to win. And so when I heard this, it did not shock me at all that some individuals, some of the people around him, were actually discussing whether it would be appropriate for him to disclose, obviously in his second term. If that's true, that's a wonderful historical point that I hope turns up and gets more examination, because it's really very, very significant. And so, but more importantly, there is quite a bit of evidence that the issue is being kicked around in the Trump White House. A lot of evidence. In fact, too many people around him, top people in his administration, have spoken publicly about this, and there's just no way that they're doing that, going rogue. Whether it's Gabbard or whether it's Vance, or even his son bringing on Elizondo and Coulthard on a podcast just before the inauguration, as well as various Trump-supporting members of Congress, just going on various shows one after another and saying, we got to get this true, we got to get this, there's non-human intelligence here, and so forth. That's just not happening in a vacuum. And so I am convinced the issue is in play, which means that it could happen at any time. Now, to be clear, all of the infrastructure for the president to disclose is there, almost. There's only one significant missing piece, and that is the full UAP Disclosure Act, which is probably they're not going to make it this year. It'll be resubmitted next year for the fourth time, and possibly a little more witness protection. That's really all we need. Most everything else is in place. And so, frankly, if the president were to step out tomorrow, nobody is going to be particularly stunned. They're not going to go, what? How? Who? When? I don't get it. No. They're going to go, oh, thank you. That's disclosure. Now what? And so there's no barrier. And there's probably zero political risk or blowback, which is not something you can say about a lot of the potential actions that the president could take. And so we are there. And so now this movie drops, pounding away at almost all of the key elements by using responses by 37, 38 people who have legitimate credentials, right up to including former chairman of the Intelligence Committee, current Secretary of State, and so forth and so forth. I mean, it's an A-list like this of individuals speaking into a camera for a production that was going to be seen by a large public has never happened, not even close. There have been smaller versions, without question, but the assemblage is just intensely potent. Now, some people don't like some of these people. Some people don't like anybody in government. And so it doesn't matter how they don't see that. And so they're going to be, 5 people they don't like, and they'll dismiss everything else. That's okay. I'm here to help. All right. Check in with me, whatever. Listen to the podcast, because it is incredibly important. And so that is kind of a summary of what dropped, at least in terms of the theaters. I think there was a presentation on the 19th up on Capitol Hill, okay, and then we had one in LA and one in New York, and these are running all week in this rather cool little theater, what do you call it? Theater group called the Angelica. I like it. It's really cool. It's old school. It's kind of back. It takes you back many years. It's well done, and so I'd almost like to go to more of those films at the Angelica, and I will. So that's what dropped. And if you've got a question about any particular, I assume you all have watched it, right?
I have, yeah. I don't think Stuart has got to it yet, but
okay. So that's a general overview. Now, I tell you what, Mike, just hit me with any questions you have about any particular statement or issue that was brought up in the film.
For me, the big sort of takeaway was that, and I don't know, this might just be me personally, but it was kind of acknowledged that there is a group of people who are sort of outside the United States government who kind of call the shots as far as this topic is concerned. And, that hit home to me. Like I've discovered evidence of that while doing this. I've been doing podcasting with Stuart now for like 2 years or something. And I never really believed that there was like a deep state or dark state or whatnot. I thought it was all hocus pocus or whatever. But I've discovered in our own podcasting that there is sort of evidence that happens or exists. And in this documentary, Age of Disclosure, they did say some stuff pretty blatantly that kind of confirms that to be true as well. What do you have to say about that? Because you talked about it earlier about people like, oh, it's all, whatever. But I do believe that that's a thing.
Okay. Look, I'm not a fan of the term deep state. It's not precise. And it's just become kind of a meme. And it's way over it's way overused and expanded. Um, and it's birthed by paranoia. And paranoia is a real thing. Like, and I get it. I understand that. All right, look, there are people outside the quote government that have significant control on this matter. The defense contractors, they're outside the government, and there are plenty of people in the defense contractors who know a lot about this issue. They have impact on research and so forth. And the defense contractors have lobbyists. Now, you might consider lobbyists part of the government, but that's not the case. They're private individuals who are trying to engage the government to do stuff. So they're also outside. And I think there are certain major industrialists who have a stake in this that may be trying to influence policy regarding the extraterrestrial or technologically advanced non-human presence by putting their 2 cents in. They may also have potential investments in tech that might be developed from ET tech and so forth. And so they're part of it. All right. But beyond that, I don't think there's anybody in some secret mystical group working out of Bavaria and that's influencing stuff. All of that has been taken so far that it's not helpful. It just isn't. And so whether you're talking about the swamp or the deep state, I get it. It's convenient, and it basically gets a fundamental message across that there are influences behind the scenes. There are always going to be influences behind the scenes, and they don't have our interest at heart, and they're a problem. And you don't know who they are, but it angers you, and you're paranoid, and so you just strike out. We got this meme, and again, it's just not definitive. And so anytime you don't like somebody, throw them in the deep state. Why not? Deep state, deep state, deep state, whatever. So that's not how I work. And I occasionally use the phrase, but usually in a somewhat indirect way or a humorous way. We have defined influencers, invested interest in this issue, as well as lots of other issues. And they do try to influence. And some of this influence is not happening right out in the public. I mean, they're meeting at a cocktail lounge out in Roslyn or whatever. I get that. But basically, we kind of know that that's going on. But the real problem that is not coming from, quote, those outside of government manipulating everything to their own interests and our detriment. The real problem is created, the memes like Deep State and the swamp and so forth are coming from the government. Meaning this, the government has systemically lied about so much, so long as policy that they have significantly undermined trust in government. And in an age where, an internet age where every little thing can be examined, lying in 1956 is one thing, 76, 86, 96, lying in the 25th century with the media neurosphere, I guess you could say, that's out there is not good. Mm-hmm. You can't win. It's just going to create even more and more blowback, drive you crazy. And they're still doing it, but they're getting better. And so the government, all the way back, probably to Vietnam, which is when it started. I mean, I think when the Vietnam War starts to get underway in the early 60s, which was just a really bad policy, really bad decision made over and over again. The lying really got underway, and it's continued aggressively through the end of the 20th century, well into the 21st century. And this lying has so disturbed the American public that they are almost at sea, at a loss as who to believe and who not to believe, and they're jumping into this box or that box, and neither one of which is a good idea. So this is not helpful. And so there is the problem, not the mysterious behind the scenes people that we know nothing about, but the actual people we do know who are lying to us, like the Department of Defense for decades, and the Air Force, and the Department of Energy, and certainly the intelligence agencies. They have lied about a lot of things, always justified by national security issues or demands, and they've gone way past the allowed, dosage of that. And we know how it works with medicine. Take 4 times the allowed dosage, and they find you on the bathroom floor. Well, right now, the United States government is kind of lying on the bathroom floor, either to be taken to an emergency room or put out of its misery. So that's how I take that. Now, they did bring up the defense contractors. They brought them up specifically regarding gutting the first submission of the UAP Disclosure Act. Check. Big deal. Okay. So they added them. They also mentioned that there were certain members of Congress who were served by lobbyists connected to the defense industry who helped to get that cut done. Check. Correct. All right. And so beyond that, I didn't see too much more of that. It was mostly focused on the actions of government and contractors in impeding this issue. This is where most of the impediments come.
Okay. So, I mean, just to try to like be the voice of, the people out there listening, what I was kind of, I guess, trying to focus on is the idea that whether you have a sitting congressperson or senator or even the damn president of the United States asking for information and they don't receive it, to me, that tells me that there's, something else, well, similar to like what you just said, but it just doesn't make sense.
Well, let me try to make sense. Look, ever since the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, was passed, which was an amazing thing, really extraordinary, untold millions, it could even be hundreds of millions of FOI requests have been put into the government. One of the most vigorous areas of that are the UFO UAP ET issue, without question. I think they don't think they realize just how much of that they were going to see. And over these years that the FOI has been in place, huge amounts of information has been released. And some of it wasn't particularly favorable. Huge amounts of relations have been released. You can go and spend days and months just going online and reviewing and or reading FOIA results that are being put up by any number of groups. And so the government has been giving out information, but it is always the case from the beginning that if something was classified and not able to be released under the FOIA, you didn't get it. You got a message that you might get a message that they didn't have it. You get a message that it's not releasable, all right, or what have you. Are any of these false? Did they give messages where, no, we don't have it when they did? It would be stupid, but it's possible. So the idea that you don't get everything you ask for with respect to government is hardly new. What is new is that of the things that one might ask the government about, this particular issue, the presence of extraterrestrials, the research of extraterrestrial technology, the implications of the extraterrestrial agenda, what they do, and there's a lot that they do that's not even discussed yet, but it will be, is more important than anything the human race has ever addressed. I mean, there have been a lot of wonderful issues going back thousands of years, right, that people were irritated about, and they petitioned the king or the emperor, and if they didn't, if they acted well, they might have survived and left the castle. But what is different is this is the most significant issue in the history of mankind. Now, I can say that because I understand the issue. Those that don't understand the issue are not going to say that. Why would they? The government's not going to say it because obviously that's not good. You can't do that. And so the role of the activists, researchers, and journalists, what I call the citizen activist research journalists, the ones that don't have a paying job, but they do it out of their back pocket, maybe get a bit of money, making a lot of sacrifices, they can say that and need to say that. And I'm always saying that because that explains a lot. When you're not just talking about a national security matter. I'd like to know where my brother-in-law is right now. He's on a destroyer, and I don't know what his assignment is. And the response is, I'm sorry, that's classified, right? It's not like that. It's incredibly important. And everything that happens going forward needs to be done well. And the process of disclosure itself needs to be done well and appropriately, responsibly. And so the idea that, whatever you ask, you're going to get it. But again, they have not been able to resolve this. It's gone on much longer than it should have. It could have ended in 47, to be honest. It could have, and it would have probably gone well. It could have ended in the 50s and so forth. And there were possibilities it might have ended because there were some behind-the-scenes efforts. But it kept going because certain groups within the appropriate entities, their view of it being the most significant issue in the history of mankind translates to this needs to be the most classified issue in the history of mankind. And we're not letting anything out unless it's trivial or by accident. And we're just going to hang on to this until whenever, right? That is what separates it. And people are going, well, that irritates me, right? In other words, they view it this way. The more important the issue is, the more important that you tell us about it. And I get that. And there's a logic to it. And then they have the opposite view inside. But in between those two views lies something that cannot be dismissed, right? It's incredibly important. You're supposed to tell me it's incredibly important. I'm not going to tell you. Lies something that we tend not to talk about much. We've dismissed it, normalized it, just put it aside. Yeah, what can you do? Between those two positions is the nuclear arms race and the new Cold Wars between the United States and Russia and China, and the development of new weapon systems and delivery systems and the potential of war in space, and on and on and on, not to mention the biological weapons research. In other words, between that is this existential threat to all of humanity that's completely on us, that we can't give up on it. We're spending trillions on it every year, and somebody's going to make a mistake at some point, and we're going to have really bad things happen. The kind of things that you don't want in your resume. This was addressed in the recent movie, The House of Dynamite. Watch it. It's all over that movie if you look at it. This is Catherine Bigelow's message to the human race. Folks, you need to reassess. Even the movie that was sponsored by, produced by Barack and Michelle Obama called Leave the World Behind. It's also a cautionary tale like that. And so that is what separates these two issues. If you don't understand how at risk we are as a civilization because of the fact that we simply will not deal with the threats that we've created, then you're not going to understand why they can't give you that information. And the people that are actually responsible for somehow not letting that middle circumstance blow up the world or destroy your lives, their sense of I'm not telling this is incredibly strong. And so it's like a three-part machine or a three-part device. It's like you got absolutely you must tell us, no, absolutely we can't tell you, and in the middle is the reason why they're not on the same page.
Yeah, that was a great answer. I imagine some of the contractors, the military contractors, see some of the information relating to disclosure as part of their intellectual property. Even if there wasn't an existential threat, they wouldn't want to release things that they were given, tech that they were given to work on, they subsequently developed on. They don't want to reveal that.
And that was raised in the movie too. There's not much they didn't cover in that movie. They
Wow.
covered a lawful lot, and that was raised. And all I can say is the defense contractor's status as being key to the development of ET tech, some of which is almost certainly being weaponized, is absolutely essential, and they should be honored for it and what they have accomplished. Their status as the potential proprietary owners of this tech is another matter. And I think they know that once disclosure takes place, barring an extraordinarily sympathetic president and Congress, that whole proprietary stuff is going to fall flat. It's not going to work. You can make the case, it's not going to fly. But what the hell, right? So they're they're very skittish about it. They're nervous, and so when the eminent domain turned up in the bill, the first submission of UAP Disclosure Act, they reacted immediately. And again, eminent domain was probably almost certainly never going to be executed in any way by the government before disclosure. So they didn't really have any immediate risk. But after disclosure, it was going to be exercised. And in a post-disclosure world where the entire population of the United States knows we've got ET tech bodies and there's been development of that and the technology can literally change our lives, the sympathy of the people for these defense contractors in making sure they get the proper proprietary position as well as the maximum amount of rewards in terms of stock and money is going to be next to zero. And so the fact is it's a moot point, but nevertheless they had to do it. So they gutted the bill, and everybody saw it happen. So it didn't really help them. and actually made people pay even more attention to the defense contractors, even more than they were. And so it's a lose for them. But still, they have done great work. They should be honored for that. And they should be allowed to make money, but not under their proprietary position, but under deals that they can make post-disclosure with the U.S. government and participate in the profits.
Okay, so I want to toss this out to you, Stephen, and I might be pushing you into an uncomfortable place, but Stuart and I on this channel, we talk about the non-physical, esoteric, and dare we say religious aspect of this more often than we do the nuts and bolts. But we do try to bring it all together, as it were. And in this doc, they did talk briefly about the religious aspect of it, as well as the economic aspects of having free energy and not needing oil to run anything. What are your thoughts on that? Because I personally believe that a lot of the people who want the big D disclosure, maybe it's just me, but I think that they're not really thinking about these larger issues of, yeah, that's something that you have to deal with too, or consider.
We're not giving enough thought and consideration to whether or not the massive corporate billionaires and multi-hundred millionaires are going to be able to continue to buy the yachts that they prefer. In other words, not as big as I'd like, but things have kind of gone down a little bit, so I can only get 450 feet. No, but here's and I don't have any sympathy either. I assure you, we are suffering from billionaire abuse, big time. It's happened before, happened at the end of the 19th century, went into the 20th century. They can't help themselves, right? You get that much money, you got to abuse somebody. What's the point of having that kind of money if you can't abuse people? My Lord. So, but that's really the way to look at it, in my view, is this. Well, I say the way I look at it is this. The general public just underestimates the power and the ability to maneuver that people with that amount of wealth have. And so, and this applies to every single industry, but let's just talk about oil and gas. God bless it. The oil and gas industries make billions a day in total. And they have substantial investments. It's not like they're just working month to month. Now, can we get another couple of billion in because we got a couple of billion to do next month? No, they have extraordinary investment of funds and monies backing them up, right? Stuff that we can't even imagine. They also have all the funds necessary to maneuver. All right, so if you've got to shift some direction, that takes money, but they've got it. And the ET issue has been known since 1947. And I assure you, the super wealthy billionaires behind these industries are aware of the ET presence. The list of people that would be happy to tell them in order to receive certain, how would you say, acknowledgement or maybe even become buddies, is a long list. They're all told. When you have money and power, you learn things. It doesn't have to come through the CNN news. It doesn't have to come from an announcement from a member of Congress. You get it privately in the background at a cocktail party. And so they all know that this has been in place all along. And so they all know that this could go to a place where oil and gas, thankfully, in order to save the planet and a lot of money that we need to feed people, is going to happen. And so when it comes, don't be shocked when you see them literally pivot, right? And immediately invest huge sums of money into building what we'll call extremely efficient energy devices. Maybe the kind every home gets one, or maybe it's just a massive plant that's generating energy for consumer use at 2 cents on the dollar. Okay, but all the machines have got to be built. They'll make trillions from that. All of the devices, right? It's not the post-disclosure reality isn't everybody gets a straw and they can suck the energy out of the what do they call it, the implicate order. No, you got to build millions and millions and maybe even billions of devices that will provide this energy, and including major plants. They will build those. They will make a fortune, and then they will be part of putting out that cheap energy. Now, Maybe on paper it's down to 2 cents on the dollar. I mean, if you just do the straight math, but there's marketing costs and there's whatever. There's all kinds of little stuff, and so they will sell energy. Now maybe they'll mark it up to 4 cents. But guess what happens when energy gets really cheap? And it's never going to be free. So God knows, please don't talk about free energy. It's so ridiculous. People are going to use more of it. And so they'll make fortunes at 4 cents on the dollar or 5 cents or 6 cents on the dollar. They're going to be fine. The airline is going to be fine. All of them are going to be fine because they have massive amounts of money. What we need to be concerned about is that in the transition to new technology that can really help the human race get along, that we exercise significant influence and regulatory control over these companies so that they are, to a much greater degree than now, serving the people and not just the shareholders. Because again, they will take advantage of anything in the post-disclosure they can to make as much money as they can, regardless of the technology. And so one of the paradigm shifts that has to happen is how we deal with massive corporations within a capitalistic system that is running amok, and how do we deal with it well? And that's more important than the fact that we're going to be changing energy systems or other technology transfers. They'll be fine. The question is, will we be fine? And so this idea that we can't bring about the truth about the most important issue in the world because a lot of just regular people are really concerned about the collapse of the oil and gas industry? Please, okay, come up with another reason, but not that one.
It's not exactly what I meant. I guess what I'm trying to say is now is the time for, I don't know, I'll just say us. I don't feel like I belong in us, but the podcasters or whatever, to start talking about this. How do we make that transition? I feel like if we talk about the how we do it, that shifts it away from, well, it's not going to happen because of this, but what you just outlined, it can easily shift, and I do agree with you. But I don't know we necessarily have the answers right now today, but I think we should start talking about the how. How do we do that? Like, how do you take get rid of all the gas stations in just America and in the world? It's not an overnight process.
Well, no, it's not an overnight process, and we'll be buying oil and gas for years after disclosure takes place. It's going to take a long time to convert to a whole new, far cheaper energy system. So they'll have plenty of time they'll take down the gas stations and repurpose the plot and sell it for a good deal of money. They'll just slowly disappear. That's happened many times in our culture. It's like over a certain amount of time, all the what do they call them? Oh God, my memory is so awful. The guys that manipulate metal to make horseshoes. What are they?
Blacksmith.
The blacksmith. Yeah.
Yeah, it took a long time. It took a good number of time for all the blacksmiths to go away. They finally went away, and that's always been the case. So it's not overnight. It's going to take time. And I'm not criticizing people that are worried about these things, because let me tell you, those opposed to disclosure will throw anything out there that they think will discourage people from pursuing it. And so how can we transition, or how's that going to happen? They overblow it. They exaggerate it, because the job is not to educate us on how to transition. It's to put off transitioning at all. And so I just don't buy into it, right? I just don't buy into it. And so all I can say is that I'm not saying that there won't be some businesses and some people that, because the whole world learns that there's ETs here, that might suffer some consequence, some loss or what have you. But that's always happening. But the number of people that will profoundly benefit from it will exceed that by magnitudes, 10 to the 20th power. I mean, so it's like, what? Right? I mean, in other words, we need to start coming up with more reasons why disclosure is essential, and less coming up with all the little reasons why it might not be, because they don't match. They never did. They didn't match in 1947. Truman should have announced it. He should have announced the Roswell crash. And if he had, he would have changed the fate of the 20th century in ways we can only dream, and all of it would have been good, very little bad. But he couldn't do it, right? Because we weren't there yet as a species, and we still had issues between nations that were primitive. And so he didn't do it. And that set off an 80-year truth embargo, ultimately, that has put us in a place now where we still don't have the truth, but we're up to our ass in nuclear war risk. I mean, if you could go back in time and say, President Truman, or even President Eisenhower, if we don't disclose now, here's where things are going to be in 2025. Oh, my God. Yeah, get the press, get them in here. We got to tell the world that we're not the only species in the galaxy. But that's not the way life is. And so they made the decisions they made. And now we're trying to fix the outcome.
Well, one of the other, maybe we can kind of end it on this one. But in Reverend Stu, I hope you're ready to toss something out there. But one of the other things that they brought up in that was, a very, very surface brushed what was religion, the religious aspect,
That's right.
which we of course have touched upon here on this channel, and of course we're not the only ones, right? But I do find that interesting, and for me it ties in a way very loosely with all the war that we do is usually over oil, but it's either oil or God that we're fighting over. So if we can release
in some cases it's oil and God. Those are really dangerous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we can release ourselves from, the need for oil, and then if we can also accept each other's different gods, and not have to kill each other. So, I don't know, Reverend Stu, do you have any comments or questions for Stephen on that aspect of it?
Well, let me answer real quick, and then you can ask another question, Stuart. That is bringing up that religious issue within the Pentagon is one of many, many things they did. They brought up so many things that have been in play, but how many people actually knew about all of them? They might have known about half or whatever, but they brought up so many, and that was one of them. Why was that good? Simple. They outed, in a much more dramatic and public way, the religious resistance to this issue within the Pentagon, which is good, right? Because, if they want to be that way, we need to know that. All right. And that's fine. And it's been mentioned before, but now it's been mentioned even more. However, before we get all worked up, that does not reflect the religious position in the world. I forget how many people are, define themselves as religious out of the 8 billion. It's a big number. It might be 6 billion. I'm not sure. But in the world, that there isn't this kind of position, except in a very small group of what we call evangelicals. But that's not that big a deal, and they are going to deal with it one way or the other. The reason the one in the Pentagon is a problem because it's implied, and I think it's true, that they tried to resist. They tried to throw some water on oil on the fire, and that's wrong. But understand, these people are not just religious. They are part of the defense establishment. Their life and their career is protecting the United States government. And right now, and for years, we've been in just another Cold War, and the nuke risk is going up, and also the general complexity of protecting the United States has only gotten heavier and heavier. You're worried about EMPs, space satellites, whatever the hell. And so that's their job. And so in the religious context, because defending the country is literally who they are, they take this hard line against it, meaning, well, I think it's demonic, and I'm gonna assert that, because if we don't figure that out, if we think it's coming from the ETs or another country and miss the fact that these are demons, then the country is going to suffer. And my job is to prevent that. And so that's kind of a special group who I understand why they're exercising their religious fundamentalism with respect to this issue inside the Pentagon. But when you go outside, religion is not going to be a problem. It's just one of those other things that keeps getting thrown up by anybody or everybody who just doesn't want to see disclosure, even in the public sector. So that's my view on that. Stuart, what are your thoughts?
I'd rather pursue truth relentlessly and fearlessly and work towards unity in the world. So I'm not going to let those things personally stand in my way. So I'm going to go wherever the truth leads me without fear. I understand why some of these people are reflexively feeling fear. They're feeling threatened of the unknown and the way their world's going to change. You know, these are big changes we're talking about, very big changes. It takes a certain degree of courage. And I really feel that some of the younger generation embody that courage. I'm really enthusiastic about their enthusiasm about disclosure.
Oh yeah, that's another thing the truth embargo cannot resist. I mean, again, it's amazing it's lasted as long. Gen Z right now, which is the largest generation group in the world, it's over a little over 2 billion. They were born between 1997 and 2012, which means the old end of the end is 25. No, wait a minute. 1997 is 13. No, when did I say 1997? I guess I did. 1997, so the Gen Z would be 28. Okay? Uh, they're literally taking down governments
Mm.
around the country. It's not something you see in the news much, but if you really want to probe, just go on Google AI and say how many Gen Z revolts are going on, and they'll list them, right? They've been going on for years now. In a couple of cases, they've toppled the government. One case, they burned down the palace. They see a very bad future ahead for them. They don't see it working out at all,
Yeah.
and they happen to be right. And so they're starting to show their frustration, their anger, and they were born in 1997.
Hmm.
The Rockefeller Initiative just got in play in March of that year, right? And they were born. Now you go back to the generation before them. They're topping out around 58, right? Which means they were born around 97, maybe 67, around in their late 60s. And so the connection that these generations have to the fundamental premises behind the truth embargo, going back to World War II and the nuclear bombings, and of course the nuclear arms race, which accelerated intensely right up to the 80s. It's just not. It's getting weaker every generation. And so they're trying to bamboozle this new generation, the Gen Zs, with the standard stuff. And this time they've got access to AI, they've got access to massive online libraries, they've got all kinds of access to people and what have you, and huge amounts of news sources. And if the news doesn't cover, the podcast will. And so the idea they're going to bamboozle these 2 billion Gen Zs is ludicrous.
Mm.
And so that's another reason why that the truth embargo cannot stand. And every month that it's extended is just doing more harm. All right. And this extends to religion as well, because
Yeah.
religion also changes with the generational change. And so the Gen Zs are viewing religion a very different way worldwide as the previous generation and so forth. Now, let me add one more thing. Religion is not going away post-disclosure. Trust me, it isn't going anywhere. People, it's hard to be an expert in national affairs and high tech and AI and religion, not just religion, maybe 20 major religions. The thing is that the truth is that religion has been around forever. It literally evolved with us out of the veldt and the jungles and so forth as we went from 300,000 years ago to now. It's literally essential to humans being able to cope with being a sentient being in this world, because it's not easy, right? And the idea that it's simply going to go away because there's ETs? What?
Hmm.
What? It's like, well, there's ETs now, so I mean, there can't be a God. Why? I don't know. Well, maybe they are the gods. Well, they've been asked that many times by contactees. They always say no. And this is one that bothers me. In the early days of the truth embargo, 40s, 50s, 60s, the CIA and the handlers of this issue used anything and everything they could to push it away. And so they were pumping out this it'll ruin religion stuff over and over and over again, using it, putting it out there, feeding it. Again, it's so easy to do when you're just talking about just getting stuff out to people in an open country like ours, a constitutional republic, the First Amendment. Hire 25 people, go say that, go write that, whatever. And when the internet comes along, so they have been using religion as a bludgeon to the truth movement. And that's one that I think they're going to have a little more difficult apologizing for. Because that's friggin' nasty. Okay. It's one of the worst cases of the propaganda, and there's the choices that they have made. There have been many. And so those that are worried about that, don't. Religion is going to be just fine. It might even flourish in a post-disclosure world. But I can't prove that now. But I certainly invite anybody that's heard that and has been buying into it to dig deeper, look into it, to make sure you're not being fed some baloney about the risk to your faith because some truth gets told to the world.
Wow, that's fascinating. Like we'll all have an expanded awareness of our place in the universe, won't we?
Yeah, it's if you believe that there is a intelligent maker to the universe, only within the last few decades have you learned how incredibly massive this thing that this intelligent maker made. It's now an average of 100 billion stars per galaxy, including ours, though ours could be as many as 400 billion stars. 2 trillion or more of the galaxies, right? In a reality that is at least 14 billion years old and 150 million light years across. So if you believe in intelligent maker and you learn more of this, because this is out there, but most people don't pay attention to that. They don't read it. They don't study science. But the ET thing is going to bring all of that really way into play post-disclosure. It's going to be talked about constantly. You're just going to find out that your maker was really, really something else. A quality maker, a quality God, I guess you could say. Unbelievable. And we're here. We are here to know that. Only 4 generations actually know what I just told you. Of the 6,000 generations that have of humans that have existed on this planet going back 300,000 years, 4 out of 6,000 are the only generations that now know how big this is, how magnificent it is, and at the same time, as a bonus, are going to be present when in the modern era of a spacefaring civilization, we are going to have direct contact, open contact with extraterrestrials. We're going to witness that. That in the universe itself. We were present for that. And the odds of that are staggering. If you go back to the beginning of humans and say, what are the odds that somebody named Steve and Mike and Stuart are going to be living at this time and they're going to be able to see this universe and they're going to be there when open contact, the odds are billions to 1. I know that the odds are beyond comprehension, right? It's the equivalent of 1,000 it's equivalent of buying 1,000 Powerball tickets and winning with every one of them. And so again, I'm not worried about religion. I'm worried about those that are trying to prevent us from getting this truth out. And we're going to fight and continue this until we get it. We're never going to stop. We're never going to relent. And the longer you hold out and the more crap you put out, the more difficult it's going to be for you to apologize down the line.
Interesting, and well said. I was going to ask you this question privately, but I'm just gonna I'm gonna ask you publicly. And Stuart, I hope I don't make you uncomfortable by saying. But Stephen, I'm starting to think that with what you just said, that maybe this particular channel that you're talking with right now is not focused on the right thing. I thought the idea of mixing non-physical and belief systems with the nuts and bolts was a pretty cool concept. But I'm starting to wonder, like, what do you think we should be focused on here? What's the path forward with all of this?
Well, okay. I mean, I'm hardly the person to be able to tell people the path forward. I know where I'm at, and I'll make a suggestion. Look, I'm not religious. Simply, I'm just not. Period. All right, no big deal. I'm just not. Okay. And that's fine. But in terms of religion, I think that people need to seriously think about it and be able to deal with whatever comes up post-disclosure in a way that's, don't make it any more uncomfortable than it has to be, and be there for other people that are totally baffled by it all. And so if you're a religious person and you know a lot about this issue and disclosure takes place, don't be afraid to help other people that really, what the hell's going on here, right? Talk to them, help them, right? No big deal. Now, in terms of the more esoteric realms, I'm not shut off to that, but it's on a basically nuts and bolts grassroots or basic level. But guess what? Because of the ET presence, there are things that have emerged that we didn't know about, and we've engaged, and the physical world is getting more interesting. Okay, it's always getting more interesting. It never not. What do we think it's going to stop? And so, long and short, when they got the ET at Roswell and any other ETs they got, they would have. That's not everybody was dead. They would have found out very quickly that the ETs are telepathic. Or if they just interviewed a bunch of contactees back then that maybe even worked for the government and were comfortably can come forward and talk to them, they found out the ETs were telepathic. They found out that they have the ability to read our mind. But even more important, they have the ability to put information in our mind. Telepathy is real. And so immediately, that's a whole new thing that they just learned from the ETs that hasn't got anything to do, well, it's not their craft, it's not their hard tech. But we also learned, I think, that not only can they be telepathic with us, they can be telepathic with their machines, but that should not shock anybody. Okay, that's coming in our world. It's very close. Okay, so what happened is the government, I'm sure, launched extensive research into telepathy and anything related to it. And one of the reasons they did it is, I think, around the same time, not too long after Roswell, they learned that the Russians were deep into this, possibly because they had some crashes and they had some ETs. And so they're getting ahead of us in the, I don't know, paranormal research or whatever the hell. So they just plunged into it. And that stuff was super classified, but eventually leaked later on, like a lot of other things have leaked. All right. But it held on a pretty long time. And so the net result of all of that research is that as it's circa 2025, and what we're going to be finding, and it's already kind of coming out, that telepathy is real. Remote viewing is real. Very likely telekinesis at some level is real. They've been studying it, they know it, but the reason they won't say anything about it is what's maybe most important. They classified it because they weaponized it, or they tried to weaponize it. The nature of our world today is anything the government learns new about this world, the first thing they want to decide is whether they can weaponize it. They will weaponize anything. And so that's a real problem that needs to be addressed here pretty soon. I'm hoping the post-disclosure world will open a door to that. And so all that research started to determine this. And I eventually kind of got caught up. And so, and by the way, I mean, I got to tell you about this. There's a major conference coming up called the State of the World Forum. Stateoftheworld.forum is the address, but State of the World Forum. It's online, and it's going to be December 14 to 17, and it's worldwide, right? And after that, there's going to be 6 more that are actually physical events that are going to be in different countries. It's the reemergence of the State of the World Forum of the 1990s, put on by Mikhail Gorbachev, Jim Garrison, and others. Major events trying to look forward to what seemed like a new world. The Soviet Union was gone. And eventually the old world came back. And they started a new Cold War and more stuff. And there were no more State of the World forums. Well, now as we approach this major change, Jim Garrison has got in touch with all of the old guys and the people and whatever to pull it together again. And he's going to do it. December 14 to 17, State of the World Forum. Go on the website. It's a huge website, beautifully done. There's what they call watch parties. There's other programs. There's award program for essays and so forth. There's going to be 51 panelists, high-level people in a range of issues. But unlike the first State of the World Forum back in the 90s, there's some new issues that have been added to the slate, namely ET and psionics. Psionics is the new word. I love great language. This is good language. Psionics is the new word that covers all that other stuff. Telepathy, remote viewing, telekinesis, whatever, all that stuff. That's psionics. And so they got people talking about that, and people talk about ET. But there is a third part of this that wasn't available in 1990 to assess the state of the world: artificial intelligence. And they're into that. 51 people addressing all these things. It's a major event. I encourage you to support it. And if you're listening to me now, all podcast friends of Mike and Stuart, if you get in touch with me by email or text, it's on my website. I think it's up probably on their site, PRG at ParadigmResearchGroup.org. And you get in touch with me and say, look, I want to go to this. I will give you a code that will save you a lot of money. And you can then insert that code when you register. So feel free to do that. Get in touch, and I'll help you with that. And so to get back to where I was, if I can get back to where I was. Oh yeah. So I believe that these exotic aspects of the world are true. I have very strong belief. Well, let me put it this way: I have strong interest in the idea of reincarnation. Now, what that means is not clear. Am I prepared to put it in the religious context? No. Have other people done so? Yeah, it's not surprising. All right, but the evidence is significant. That's pretty profound. Okay, and out of body, can't dismiss it. Okay, have I put that in the religious basket? No, I haven't. Let's see. Well, that gives you a sense of where I'm at on those issues.
Yeah.
Do I invite people to also look at it that way? I don't know, but let me put it this way: if anybody that's addressing these other interesting phenomena and giving it somewhat of a spiritual spin or connecting it to faith, that is not unreasonable. And I'm certainly not going to, troll that. I mean, I'm not going to criticize that. It's not an illogical thing at all. And it may be that down the line, there is a middle ground where some aspects of religious belief, as has been known, and aspects of these extraordinary new phenomena that we're coming to understand actually exist together, that they are interconnected in some way. And it's just a matter of knowing exactly how. Until then, we have to interpret it as best we can with what we know, right? The option is don't touch it unless you absolutely know it, but that's not the way life works. And so all of this requires, and this is going to be true of the post-disclosure world, another major reform in human behavior, all human behavior. We've got to start being tolerant and respectful of other people's efforts to understand the world. Right? You got to do that.
Yeah.
In the religious way, scientific way, and so forth, whatever. You got to start being, appreciate. You got to be respectful and understanding about that. We cannot continue to fight over every little friggin' thing, right? Or believe that what we know is absolute, and if somebody else has something different, well, that's not true, and therefore they must be expunged in order to purify the world of incorrect behavior. All of this stuff. We're going to have an opportunity maybe to do that post-disclosure, and if we don't, we can still blow everything up. We can still ruin it, unless the ETs completely take over, right? Turn off all the nukes, shut down all the armies, tanks, melt them all down, and then, you can build skyscrapers with them, and basically say, from now on, you're going to do what we tell you to do, and we're going to tell you to stop acting like idiots, and things are going to go better for you. But you've lost your, how would you say, freedom of engagement. You're now under somebody else's control. You're just lucky it's us and not you. That could happen. And I got to tell you, given what I know about the world today, I could live with that. I mean, I could go with that. I'm going, look, that's okay. If that's what you're talking about, and maybe 500 years from now, they go, hey, you guys have got it together now. And we're liking what we're seeing, right? The way you have evolved and the way you're addressing, and the way you're learning and showing appreciation to each other and whatever. So we're going to turn it back to you. It's yours. Good luck. We'll check in, of course. We wish you the best because yeah, it's a big galaxy and there's a whole lot of stuff to do. And we've been running you for like we've been managing you for 500 years. So here it is. That's cool. That's a novel. That's a sci-fi novel, by the way. Not that I'll write it, but that's a sci-fi novel. It's probably been written. I mean, I'm sure it's been written. So you just got to go Google it. You can find it. But that I can live with that, all right? Because we sure as hell can't manage ourselves yet. We are awful at it, and we pay a tremendous price for not being able to manage. You know, if a major company, managed like we managed our societies, every year, a third of the entire people working for that company would die in industrial accidents, right? Right. A lot of them would be setting up illegal centers and kidnapping people and basing the whole thing in like the eighth floor and running it out of there. God knows. I mean, that's how a company ran like we do. But fortunately, companies, that's one good thing they do, is they actually create structure that allows you to do things and do them well. The problem is that structure is overly connected to unbridled capitalism. You can't be perfect. And if it wasn't for that, capitalism and business development is the greatest, not only wealth builder, but also society builder concept that's ever been come up with. And it's just being abused to death. So it's only probably 20% effective, if that. Abused to death by people that carry in them fundamental traits that the humans have had for 300,000 years. I'm going to live. I don't care about anybody else. In order to live, I want everything I can get. Water, land, food, whatever. And if I have to get it from you, I'm going to get it from you, right? And if anybody gives me a hard time, I'm going to kill them. I mean, that is, that is the way it's been. That's how we've evolved, and capitalism dropped into that. And unfortunately, it borrowed a lot of those concepts from just our evolved history. And there, it's not good. It's out of control. We know it too, but yeah, but that's another subject. I'm not here to reform capitalism. I just want disclosure, and I'm going to probably go on vacation and then quietly disappear into the ethos.
Hope not. But okay, if you have maybe 2 more minutes, I want to throw one wild card out at you, just to sort of wrap this up. And you may not have heard about this, or maybe I'm incorrect, but I saw something actually on X, like 20 minutes before we started this today. I don't know. It appears like it's brand new. It may have been a rehash, but it seems like David Grush was on Fox. I forget who he was with, and
Right.
potentially this was in reference to or after the Age of Disclosure release. So
Right.
anyway, I don't want to misquote him, but he said something to the effect of, yes, he has seen biological entities that are not human, that don't necessarily look like us. And
That's
he
right.
also said that they don't necessarily have our best intentions in mind. And that is definitely a debate in the UFO world for quite some time of, are they good? Are they bad? Are they neutral? What do you have to, any thoughts on the idea that these ETs or extra dimensionals, whatever the heck they might be, friend or foe, like, what do you think about that?
Well, that's another example of he's limited. He's not going to go beyond the boundaries that he has. And so all he can say is that he can't go into the specifics of what constitutes not having our best intentions. But I can say this. If you know anything about contact and contactees, and the history of contactees going back quite a ways, I think it's perfectly appropriate to say that what contactees are experiencing, interacting with ETs for whatever reason that is not necessary because they're doing it for a reason, does not display the best of intentions. All right. Maybe he's just referring to that. Okay. We know they've turned off our nukes repeatedly,
Yep.
and Soviet nukes. A military person, a national defense person, could reasonably interpret that as not having our best intentions, right?
Okay.
You know, they're rather their intentions are not the best intentions. This is how we defend ourselves. This is our number one weapon. They're turning them off. That is de facto threatening, unless you want to go further. And since we don't have a definitive statement from the ETs that no, that wasn't a threat, we were just giving you a message. All we have is interpretation of that event by people that were there. Again, best intentions. Yeah, I get it. So, but he's not able to elaborate. So I would encourage people not to run away with that one. Just sit back, whatever, and see how this plays out. We are still suffering under a massive truth embargo that wastes our time trying to guess and theorize. If science ran that way, we'd still be in caves. So it's we need to know the truth, and then we will be able to decide exactly what this means and that means, and react accordingly in a responsible and appropriate way. Until then, we're just guessing and walking around in the dark in circles. And I don't think that that is something a government should impose on their people. Why don't you go walk around in the dark for a couple of years, maybe a couple of decades? Just leave us alone. Yeah, enjoy yourself, okay? But just, walk in the dark, right? Or just, guess about everything, right? Just, you don't really, you're not going to tell you what's really going on. But you can guess all you want, make up theories, write books, spend years of your life doing something that in fact is completely wrong about the reality. Waste your life on our life. It's your life. We, on the other hand, are not wasting our lives. We are engaging this issue in an incredible way. We are, affecting this and doing that and protecting, and we're very satisfied with our lives. And we're apparently happy to have you waste your lives because we're going to deny you the information you need to know to make appropriate decisions about what to do, what to think, and where to go. And again, that's at the core of the reason why the truth embargo has to end. I've said it different ways, but on an ethical, moral basis, that's it. It should end for that reason alone. Boom, bam, that's it. Any government that's doing that crap, they shouldn't be governing. So we'll see. I think we're close. The combination of this film and the impact it's going to have on witnesses, on members of Congress, on even DOD people, on the media, right? In terms of taking it to another level, may take it to a place where the President of the United States feels safe enough. Yeah, I'm just going to go get myself a Nobel Prize. I'm going to tell the world something that no other head of state has ever been willing to do.
Yep.
And so at this point, I'm on, I see on call. I'm literally on call. I'm waiting for code blue. Now, again, I know that I have been talking about the prospects of disclosure for 30 years, and I know it hasn't happened, and people pound on me for that. I get it. Right? I don't do things we've been hearing lately when the world's going to end on July something, 2027, or the ETs are going to, come. I don't month and date. I simply try to project the potential, and sometimes the potential is good, sometimes it's low, but I've never believed it was zero. And so I have to some degree overpromised, and I get it, but the fact is, if you're going to be an activist in a movement that's challenging the heart of a major government, actually the entire government complex of the planet, about an issue of this magnitude, and you're not going to be forward-looking and positive, what in the hell are you doing? Because it may take 20, 30, 40 years. And you're expecting everybody to just keep following along and keep paying attention to what you're saying because you keep telling them, yeah, the chances are, yeah, I'll never see it in your lifetime. Could happen, might not happen. I don't know. No. Right? And so you have to risk people being upset because you're just a little too, how would you say, predictive or overconfident. I can handle it. It's okay. Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure.
Likewise. And
Absolutely amazing. It's happening. Disclosure is happening, and you're part of it. And I want to really thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really respect your work.
Make sure y'all contact me if you want to register for the State of the World Forum. I can help. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
All right,
and again, Stephen, from me too, thank you for everything that you've been doing for decades. Really.
This was a great show. I was in a pretty good mood. I think I was making sense. And not always, because
it was awesome.
I'm going through years of, how would you say, cognizant dissonance, cognizant decline, anxiety, and frustration all at once. Okay? I got a lot of drugs back there. I'm not going to tell you what they are. But today I seem to be cogent. So
yeah, I thought it was great.
My gift to you.
Thank you so much.
Always, man. You're smart. You're funny. You're the whole package. Right. So it's always a pleasure talking with you.
Until next time.
All right. Thanks so much.
Take care.
All right. All right, Stuart. What do you think about all that? And how is that for you?
Well, just when I think I can't learn anything new, I learned something new from that amazing man. So many interesting insights, and I'm highly motivated to see this new documentary now. I didn't get an opportunity to see it before we had our podcast today, but I really want to see it. It's just important.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's been out for literally like 24 hours, since we're doing this recording. So like, it's okay, man. But dude, you should see it. And I said to somebody that I know who was asking about it, like if I saw it, and I was like, yes, of course I saw it. We're going to be talking about it today. But I recommended they see it as well. I let's see, how do I want to say this? On one hand, there are some people who are saying like, oh, well, there isn't really anything new in there, and I can maybe understand what they mean by that. But I will say I respect Dan Farha and props to you, sir, for all the effort and work that's gone into it. And I thought it was very well put together, just like Stephen had said. But here's the thing for me. Even me, who has the finger on the pulse of this damn topic every blessed day, there were two or three things in there that I had not known about or heard about or whatnot. So even I learned a couple of things in the Age of Disclosure documentary.
Wow. Okay. I'll probably learn some things too then, because I've been following this for a long time. As you know, I watch most of these major documentaries that come out. So I was definitely going to watch this, but now I'm even more motivated, Mike.
Yeah, it is. It is a really great piece of work, and I also commend everyone who is a part of it. It takes a hell of a lot of courage to come forward and say those things and publicly and put your name to it and whatnot. So, well done to everybody involved in there, and I guess, Stuart, we're going to go back into the Matrix, and as we figure out
Yeah.
where our studio went.
I don't mind this. Now, keep in mind for the audience, we are on a break now, so we were having a break until next year. But something this important needed a show, and I'm very glad we've done it today.
Yeah, absolutely. So that aside, I think that you and I are the only ones who are going to maybe really notice about the studio thing. But we'll have that fixed before we come back again.
All right, Mike. Much love to you and our audience as usual.
Likewise. We'll catch up with y'all real soon. And until then, take care.